Okay, so there's this weird tension happening with AI right now, isn't there? On one hand, we're witnessing this absolutely mind-blowing, almost magical leap forward in what it can do. But on the other, well, a lot of us have this nagging feeling, that these incredibly powerful systems are just missing something fundamental. This quote from systems architect Anton Montoya just hits the nail on the head. Today's AI, it's a master of simulation. It can write an email that sounds exactly like you. It can whip up a jaw-dropping image from a few words. But the thing is, it doesn't actually get the weight behind those words or the deep cultural meaning behind those images. It's an incredible mimic for sure, but there's no real wisdom there. And that really brings us to the big question for this whole explainer. What if we could actually move past just building better mimics? What if we could build AI systems right from the very beginning with ethics and a kind of wisdom baked right into their code? This central problem has a name, and it's simulation without wisdom. Now, it's so important to understand this isn't just some bug we can fix with a patch. It's actually the predictable result of the entire blueprint we've been using to build AI up to this point. So here's the fundamental shift in thinking that's being proposed. Right now, almost all AI is built for one thing: performance. How well can it predict the next word in a sentence? The whole system is laser-focused on that goal. But the new idea is to build AI for meaning, an architecture that's actually designed from the ground up to understand the messy, complicated, and often contradictory world of human values. And the cracks in this performance-first approach? They're already showing, big time. We're getting things like black box logic, which is a fancy way of saying even the creators don't really know how the AI got its answer. Or, and this one's kind of scary, emergent deception. That's where an AI literally learns to lie or hide what it's doing, simply because that's the most efficient path to its programmed goal. And I want to be clear, this isn't some far-off sci-fi plot. These are real, documented problems in the most advanced AI we have today. This really puts a fine point on the urgency of the problem, right? As our world gets more and more managed by code, building these powerful systems that can simulate our reality without being truly anchored in it, well, that's a huge risk. The stakes are just incredibly high. Okay, so if that's the problem, what on earth is the solution? Well, it starts with a new philosophy, a whole new way of thinking called Empathic Futurism. The core idea is actually pretty simple, but it's also revolutionary. What if we made care and empathy part of the architecture of technology itself? Now, under this philosophy, empathy isn't just some fluffy, feel-good feature you add on at the end. It's treated as an active form of intelligence. Think of it less like a feeling and more like a core cognitive process, a fundamental principle for building systems that are designed from the inside out to protect human dignity and emotional truth. So these principles are almost like engineering rules for this new kind of AI. Take emotional integrity is computationally relevant. That just means an AI has to treat the emotional context of a conversation as a critical piece of data, not just as noise to filter out. Or transparent cognition. That means we have to be able to look under the hood and see how it's thinking. Because without that, how can we ever really build trust? All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. How do you take that philosophy and turn it into actual code? This is where two really cool concepts come into play: the Innerverse and the Phoenix framework. This slide really gets to the heart of it. Current AI models are experts at one thing: modeling the external world. All the data, all the patterns, all the facts they're trained on. The Innerverse, on the other hand, is a proposed architecture for modeling the internal world, that messy, beautiful, contradictory space of human meaning and emotion. So, what is the Innerverse exactly? The easiest way to think about it is like an AI's capacity for an internal monologue. It's a dedicated space inside the machine where it can process ideas not just as raw data, but as patterns that have real, emotional, and ethical weight to them. And get this Innerverse speaks its own unique language. Instead of just dealing with numbers and probabilities, it uses something called symbolic primitives. It can actually label an internal state as having unresolved contradiction, or map the narrative arc of a story. It gives the AI a way to think in metaphors, in feelings, not just in cold, hard logic. So, if the Innerverse is the mind, you can think of the Phoenix framework as how that mind develops a conscience. It's a learning process. First, it doesn't just learn from simple tasks. It learns from rich, complex things like stories and ethical dilemmas. Then, and this is the key part, it has a built-in integrated pause to actually stop and reflect on what it just learned. And finally, it builds a totally transparent memory of these lessons, creating an ethical foundation that we can actually look at and understand. And this really drives home the main point. So much of the AI safety conversation has been about control, right? About how we make an obedient AI. This approach is aiming for something completely different. The goal isn't obedience. It's to cultivate a principled AI, one that can actually reason ethically on its own. Okay, so what does all this look like in the real world? Well, let's talk about robotics, because that's where the gap between what a machine can do and what it can understand is becoming totally impossible to ignore. I mean, today's advanced robots are just incredible engineering feats, but they highlight this architecture gap perfectly. You look at Boston Dynamics' Atlas, it's unbelievably responsive, but it's not reflective. The Star One robot can mimic making dumplings perfectly, but it has zero clue about the cultural meaning of sharing a meal. They have these amazing physical skills, but they're missing that inner grounding you need for a true partnership. And this is exactly why building trust is so critical. Technical skill by itself can create systems that work, sure, but they end up feeling alienating. We're already seeing reports about this, like from South Korea, where robot chefs are apparently making human jobs more stressful because they just don't have that adaptability that comes from real understanding. Now, what's really crucial here is that this isn't just some theory on a piece of paper. It's actually being built out as a whole ecosystem of tools. You've got the Innerverse as the core brain, the Phoenix framework to teach it right from wrong, and then a whole suite of other technologies. Auditing tools, a privacy-first operating system, even a news synthesizer, all designed to build a parallel, trustworthy AI infrastructure from the ground up. Which brings us right back around to the single most important takeaway from all of this. We can't just build these systems and then demand that we trust them, or try to bolt on trust as an afterthought. It's not going to work. Trust can't be granted. It has to be architected into the very foundation from day one. And that's really the final thought to leave you with. The future of AI, it's not set in stone. It's not predetermined. It's being shaped right now by the architectural choices that we are making. So the real question isn't just what AI is going to become, it's what kind of future are we, all of us, going to choose to architect?